Hi, well tonight we present you with a world exclusive. It deals with one of the musical geniuses of the 80s. Born George O'Dowd, this brilliant singer-songwriter, over the past 18 months has not only become a household name, he's become a household face. Better known as Boy George, he and his group The Culture Club will tour Australia next week. Recently in London, I discovered there was more to Boy George than just his musical world. He's been referred to as an over-made-up tart, and tonight's special is simply called Who's a Tart?
If I said to you that being what I am means nothing to me, it might sound a bit conceited, but it really does mean nothing to me at all. When I started Culture Club, you know, whenever you start a band, it's like, it's fun, it's not serious, and then when you do have some kind of success, especially with a band like Culture Club, because we're work-orientated, you don't really have time to sit back and say, oh, wow, how successful are we?
Right.
And so really, you know, it's like today, you know, I was coming out of the office to come here, and there were two, like, fans from Denmark, and they've been 3 days running, and every time they've been, I've been, like, really in a hurry, because I've been, like, working, you know, like hell. And I came running out of the office and I said, I can't stop. And they say, when do you ever start working? And that is the question. I think when I stop working, Culture Club stops. Right. You know, my life is Culture Club in the way that people say Michael Jackson's a recluse. I mean, Michael Jackson puts every bit of his life, private life and social life, into being Michael Jackson, right, which is what I do. I put everything into being Culture Club. So to look at it into perspective is very difficult, because every day I'm just working and working, and I can't really look at it and say, you know, I'm doing this, or is it exciting? I mean, of course it's exciting, otherwise I wouldn't do it. I mean, but the main thing is that I've got a job, right, that I enjoy, and that's sort of, you're very lucky to have a job any time in your life that you enjoy. Look how many people are unhappy at their jobs. You know? Right. I mean, I do treat this as a job.
Now, all right, taking it back to, say, like, the makeup days of when you first, you know, started wearing makeup, if you go right back to sort of, say Mark Bolan, where, I mean, Mark becomes really big, he gains, you know, like, fans and people who follow him, you know, boys and girls, who try to emulate and start, you know, testing around with makeup and that. And then you can go through the Bowie period, the Kiss period. What was the inspiration for you to sort of, you know, try out sort of different art things on your face, as far as makeup?
Well, really, I can never ever explain that, kind of the reason behind it. No. You know, when we were doing, when I did this thing the other day, I did this award. I presented an award to the DJ of the year, and when they introduced me, they said, "Oh, you know, Boy George seems to be the only person who's ignored, you know, the fact that you don't have to wear makeup on the radio." Right. And when I got up, I said, you know, first of all, I'd like to say, I was wearing makeup for like the last 10 years, and I had no reason before I was famous, and I have no reason now. Right. I don't know what the reason is. Basically, I mean, when I was very young, you know, some people have curly hair, they want it straight, and I just hated my face. I thought it was the most bland-looking little peanut I'd ever seen. And it was basically, I mean, obviously, when I started wearing makeup, I wore very little. I wore just eyeliner and stuff like that. You know, there's no way of really talking about makeup without making it sound effeminate, but it's never ever been a means for me to be a woman. I've got no desire to be a woman. Right. I mean, you know, I'm a big guy, I'm a man, you know. Right. I think most people, when they meet me, say, God, they expect me to be a real fairy, and so like the illusion is completely shattered. No, but I mean, when you're talking about inspiration, I mean, yeah, and also that, like, where like, say someone does follow Mark, or so the Bowie, Ziggy Stardust time, and they suddenly find that when they play around with the makeup, they find something that suits themselves. When did you find the point where you finally found something that suited you, that you became your own individual? Well, when I was about 16, when I left home, I went to live in Birmingham, which is the north of England. Right. And that's when I really started to wear heavy makeup. You know, I was living in a really industrial area called Warsaw. And I was living with a guy and two girls. We shared this big, like, kind of, it's like a doctor's surgery which had been renovated into flats. Right. And that's when I started to dress up, you know, because I'd left London, I'd left my home, and it was really my first experience of independence in a way. That's when I really started to wear heavy makeup, but I'd worn makeup before then. The only person really... Mark Bolan never influenced me visually. I think mentally, maybe, but not visually. Right. But I don't think... I mean, even David Bowie, I just think that... You see, David Bowie was somebody who discovered eccentricity through Lindsay Kemp, right, whereas from my own point of view, I mean, I only discovered it from what I saw around me, which is true for everyone, really. I mean, you can only be what you see, right, and what you hear. But I can't say who influenced me, really. You know, because, I mean, I used to, even in the punk days, when I was punky, I used to kind of look in books, like 1920s clown books, and I used to say, blimey, look at these people, you know, and I mean, it's nothing new. Right. The main thing is that you accept that it's not new. When did you realise
that you had a really unique voice?
Well, when we started the band, I mean, I'd sung before as a child, you know, but when I started, I mean, everybody sings, you know, you hear people on buses singing, but when I started the band, I mean, I had the most monotone voice. It was like, it was like real, absolutely no range at all. And I think it was there, you know, but it was just, once I started, you know, I could sing like any key, but once you start trying to put it to music, that's when it becomes difficult. You know, you can sing in the bathroom because you've got that wonderful reverb and echo. But when I finally put it to music, it was really hard. And basically, I don't think I became a good singer until even now, I think. I'm still learning. I think my voice is better than it's ever been now. I mean, because I know how to sing properly.
Well, I mean, Helen was saying that your voice is improving all the time.
Yeah, and on the last
But,
tour,
I mean, Joan Sutherland says that her voice improves all the time.
No, but mine's improved drastically. You know, like on the last tour, I mean, I didn't have one bad night. I mean, usually, you know, you have a couple of songs that yeah, everyone does, but you have a flat note here and there. But, I mean, usually I get bad sore throats and stuff, but I haven't had any of that because now I sing from my diaphragm, which is a technical description. But I think basically it's finding, I mean, I've been for a lot of singing teachers, but basically I found the right one and somebody who I liked and I get on with. And that's basically what it is. It's just having the incentive to learn, you know, and wanting to learn. I think that's what it is, really. And also because when I found out that Stevie Wonder still took singing lessons, it kind of really inspired me. I thought, well, if he can do it and he's got the best voice in the world, why shouldn't I?
Have you taken any singing lessons?
Yeah, I do. I take them every other 2 days, yeah. I have an hour every morning. I exercise every morning. I think image is always important. You switch on your TV and you've got these wonderful, beautiful models saying, it's like the Rolling Stones song, you know, he can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me, you know, and all those kind of things. And we live in a society that bombards us with kind of things that we can't really compete with, you know, like standards of living, standards of sexuality, standards of perfection.
Right.
And I think that like TV adverts and things, I think we're one step beyond the TV advert because we are real. And, you know, there's something very imperfect about me that people can relate to. You know, I don't get all beautifully made up girls coming to my gigs. I get fat little girls, I get black girls, I get all shapes and sizes, I get people. I deal with real people, you know, and what I sing about affects real people. You know, when you sing about love, don't think for a minute that you know, like fat people don't fall in love and people with glasses don't fall in love. It's funny because when we were at the Hare Krishna temple, I went there last week just like for a visit, and they showed us this painting. They were trying to explain some of their theory. They showed this painting of like the head, the Krishna guy, you know, and it was like in, you know, thousands of years ago, and there was like a goat kissing a rabbit and a lion kissing a deer, and my friend said it's not possible. And I said, well, if you say that's not possible, it's like saying a fat person can't kiss a thin person. And that's the kind of mentality I work with. Right. I mean, I think that, apart from, you know, people write about me always perfectly made up. I mean, I've got lots of imperfections, which is why I wear makeup and why I dress the way I do. You know, I'm very careful about the way I look. And I'd say I was more like Joan Collins than David Bowie, because, I mean, I'm just like... I don't know if I should say this. I mean, my attitude to makeup is the same as a woman's, you know. Right. And it's not an image for me, it just makes me look better. You know, the image, and people talk about the image and they say, oh, when are you going to change it? I mean, I might do. I mean, I've changed, you know, I don't wear my hat anymore. Maybe I'll wear it next week. I might wear it tomorrow. Maybe I'll wear it tonight. You know, it's like, I mean, I changed my underwear, you know. Right. People don't sort of kind of ask me, oh, you know, why do you change your underwear? When you do things, everything has a reason, but... you know, by analysing it, it becomes irrelevant. I mean... No,
I know you've sort of covered the subject of where you say you love it, but how did you handle personally that form of intense sort of press,
like just
wanting
like
to be, I mean, everyone wanting to know who is this boy George, I mean, from like Australia to America to everywhere?
With a fit of giggles, really. You know, just like with mass hysteria. Yeah. But also... just because of my nature, my sort of personality and everything, I just cope with it in the sense that I just did everything, you know, right. to the best of my ability. I went and talked to people, and some interviews were good, some were bad. I mean, some people took to me and some people didn't. But it really didn't bother me, you know. I think people just, whether they hated me or liked me, I think people were never sure of how far it would go or what we were capable of, which was great, you know, right. Because all those misconceptions, you know, have helped to make us as big as we are now. And, you know, that initial period was one of the most exciting periods.
Well, it can also be a shock period as well. I mean, like, where there's so many stories. How did the rest of your family cope with it at that stage?
It was sort of... they were really involved, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like suddenly George disappears, you know, to Hollywood. It was like, oh God, guess what happened today? Oh my God, you know, what's happening now? And it was like, you know, the thing about pop's success is that it's very public.
Right.
So, you know, your parents get the papers delivered and they see what's going on. And also, you know, I talked to them the whole time. They didn't...
And your sister? I mean, like...
All those, yeah, my brothers and sisters had that kind of, obviously that problem of kids at school and stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't... They handle it, you know, they're very bright, they're not stupid, you know, they're quite strong, you know. I come from a very strong background, you know, so they're all quite tough kids, you know, my brothers and my sisters. She's very, you know, she's great. She's full of kind of cheek, you know. She's a kind of, and when Marilyn came out of the house, you know, she just said, have you got a boyfriend? Marilyn said to him, have you got a boyfriend? She said, what's it got to do with you? It was great. And he just went, sat down, which is quite funny. She's just, you know, she's full of jip, which is nice, you know. So they handle it. I mean, she went to school a couple of weeks ago and the teacher, she took a day off and the teacher said, you know, I hope you weren't having a photo session with your brother. And she said, I can do what I bloody well like, you know. So it's better than being at school, which is great, you know, which is the sort of spirit I admire, you know. So they're pretty cool.
Well, let's take the other parallel then of Michael, of where it's just got to a point like yourself, where, I mean, you're on every magazine, and you make headlines around the world, you sell records, and become two of the biggest selling record makers within the world today. And there's these terrible stories written about Michael, and they do affect him, and they affect his family.
Like what?
Well, from like that he supposedly had, you know, his whole face restructured, that he's having hormones, just to anything, you know what I mean? Obviously there's two distinct parallels between you that you are not upset about it to him that is.
You see, I think the trouble with America is that the star system is so strong and people take themselves too seriously. You know, I mean, if someone writes that I'm a transvestite, okay, it might annoy me, but who cares? You know, who cares? It's like, so what, you know? Rather be a transvestite than be a leper. You know, it's like, there's, you know, if you have a choice. I think in America, they spend so much time being stars. You see, the good thing about this country is that, you know, obviously you've got freedom of speech, but also you've got, like, you can be a millionaire and still walk around the streets. You know, in America, you have to live like a rich person, whereas you can just be like everyone else here, and you can forget about what you've earned and what you're doing, which is great. And you have to have that. And in America, you're not allowed to do that. Do you know what I mean? There isn't that kind of freedom. You know, there are some places you can go in London where people completely ignore you. You know, they're so cool, it's like, oh, look who's just walked in. You know, and it's fine, you know, I don't mind that. It's good, I like that. But I think Michael never gets the chance to meet real people. Right. All the time, it's like, you're so fabulous, oh my God, you're so wonderful. Who wants to hear that 24 hours a day? Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's like drives you crazy. And I think that's what happens in America. Everybody's a fan. Everyone. You know, from the people on the radio to the people on the news, everybody adores you. And they adore you so much that you just want to hide. Right. You know, and even your family, really, are not necessarily real people because you know them, you know, they're like close to you and they're always going to be on your side. But, you know, you can go out and... I think it's good to get thumped occasionally and to have people like, you know, like starting on you, and it brings you down to earth, you know. There's a guy, I told you before, there's a guy in a Chinese restaurant who, you know, we were having a meal and we were waiting for a meal to be served, and he started calling me a puff. I went up and I said, what's your problem? And, like, you know, as soon as I went up to him, it was like so nervous, you know what I mean? Right. Suddenly the TV becomes reality. Yeah. And it was like, I said, is there something wrong? And he said, no. I said, okay. Just walked off. And we carried on with our meal, but I mean, he wanted to, you know, if I'd have ignored him, he probably would have thumped me. I think he just wanted attention, which is the problem with a lot of people. I mean, the original story I heard about the Marilyn incident is that the guy asked for his autograph and he said no, or because he always does, like, people come up in the street and they say, Marilyn, can I have it with you? He goes, no, and then he gives it to them, but he does it as a joke. Whereas I suppose people are so kind of nervous about coming up to you anyway. You know, if you kind of mess around with them, they can get really panicky, and that's probably why, you know, thumped him, I don't know. But, you know, like, we definitely have more of a sense of humour. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but in England we have more of a sense of humour about it. We don't fall over our artists here, which can be annoying, but also it's good. You both have transcended every age group for different reasons. I mean, from children who think both you and Michael are like, I don't know, perhaps the modern-day Peter Pans or whatever, you know? Do you find that? I don't know about that. I just... From the beginning, I mean, if you read a lot of my early interviews, I said I didn't believe in the generation gap. It was nothing to do with the success that we had. From the beginning, I just... You know, if you look back at our interviews, you know, we said we didn't want to make music for, like, trendy people with pink eyeshadow and spiky hair.